Story 1. The startup did not succeed and I never made my millions. Now I am divorced because I did not put that energy into my relationship. Do not hate the hustle, but diversify your efforts. Story 2. When I was young, I was very poor. Now, after a lifetime of hard work and sacrifice, I am no longer young. Story 3. Got me enough money to afford a down payment on a house just before the boom. Story 4. Worked hard to earn a Doctor of Philosophy degree. The stress triggered a severe autoimmune disease a month after my defense, and it now completely controls my life. I wish I had enjoyed my 20s more instead. Story 5. Exhausted. One thing people don't remind you is that the people you love age and become more sick. I was laser focused on my career and didn't notice my family members getting sick until it was too late. I am approaching my 30s, but I already wish I had spent more time with my family and worried less about my career. Story 6. I regret it from a social angle. I worked full-time straight from graduating college with no breaks. My friends took time to travel and explore. Now, in our mid-30s, we are all settled into careers with spouses and children, but I have missed out on travel and the experience of exploring life fully. Story 7. I worked hard but did not save well. I am okay in my 40s. Not rich but not poor either. I own a house and have a nice retirement lined up. I know people in their 40s who earned a lot more than me in their 20s and are now homeless. It all comes down to moderation. Story 8. Not so well. The pandemic damaged my finances, and my body is so battered that I find it hard to keep up in my line of work. Story 9. The hard work led to a promotion I never thought possible. Story 10. Long hours and challenging projects resulted in a strong reputation in my field. Story 11. Worked through the grind to earn my degree. It opened many doors. Story 12. The dedication resulted in a stable career and an impressive salary. Story 13. Personally, I worked hard when I was a teenager. Before Jerry Garcia died in 1995, when I was only 20, I had already saved up $90,000 from selling grilled cheese on the Grateful Dead tour. I then used that money to invest in real estate in Northern California. In nearly 30 years since, I have flipped enough properties to only work jobs I truly enjoy. Story 14. I have 2 Doctor of Philosophy degrees, a Juris Doctor, and a Master of Arts. I have a very successful and powerful position in my state government, but I am miserable. I am burdened with school debt, filled with anxiety, drink more than I should, and do not have time for a personal life, friends, or anything that is not work, commuting, and taking care of my children. Story 15. I missed the college experience and went straight to work at 17. I worked my way up to management and married at 23. By 27, the owner of my company told me he wanted to make me chief executive officer one day and offered to pay half of my tuition to go to college. I went back and completed my undergraduate degree in a little over 5 years while working 50 to 60 hours per week and even adopted a little girl, becoming a father in the middle of it. Eventually, I became a chief executive officer by cashing in my retirement savings during the COVID-19 pandemic to buy a small business. I am in my 4th year, and we have grown 400%. I am looking at a business that I will sell and retire from within 10 years. I have lived, traveled, partied, have a great marriage to the woman I married at 23, an awesome daughter, and worked very hard. I do not regret it one bit. Story 16. I spent my late teens and all of my 20s working for my dad's maintenance company. I started just as we took on a nationwide contract covering 24-hour reactive and planned maintenance for a large chain across the United Kingdom as their main contractor. Pros: good money, not just in wages but company earnings, which has allowed me to invest in multiple rental properties and a few other businesses. Mortgage on my own property paid without issue. I'm nowhere near rich, but money certainly isn't a stressing factor in my life. I'm able to earn a decent passive income, meaning I can now pick and choose my work. Cons: I miss so much of life in general: gigs, parties, hanging with friends, dinners with family, and more. You name it, I missed it. Even when I was there, I was always on the phone checking emails and messages. Stress was through the roof. The people we worked for were not concerned about work-life balance. They called and wanted you immediately, not your employees but you. If a branch couldn't open at 8 a.m. as scheduled, it was you they screamed at. I worked multiple 24-hour shifts on site to ensure things were up and running, only to be told it wasn't good enough because someone found dirt in a back-of-house sink. I have a lot to be thankful for due to the work, but part of me regrets choosing it over enjoying life. Story 17. In short, it did not. My family did not have money to help with school, and I was taught that debt is bad, so I enlisted in the Navy nuclear program. After getting out, I started my own small business with a $2,500 vending machine. Over the next decade, I committed to growing the business, never going out partying or wasting money. I finally crossed over $100,000 in take-home pay and was ready to use my department, a Veterans Affairs home loan. That was in 2021. I lost out every time to cash offers waiving inspections. Friends who seemingly went nowhere and just skated through life make substantially less than me but have significantly more assets because they said screw it and bought that $75,000 house that would cost me $400,000 to buy from them because I wanted to follow the correct responsible order in life. Story 18. I deeply regret neglecting my mental health, and now I am facing serious consequences. Story 19. Burned out severely. Total reset in early 30s. It was all for nothing. Have very few good memories. Missed out on many movies, television, music, sports, and social life. Story 20. Worked for a big technology company from 1986 to 1996. At 30, I was told by human resources that I couldn't carry any more vacation because I hadn't taken any in 7 years. I asked if they would buy it from me and we would call it even. No. They suggested I take 1 day off per week for the rest of my life but remain available by email and phone during that day. I asked if they would pay for my vacation if I quit. Yes, I quit instantly. I got the usual objections but gave them 2 weeks' notice. 17 days later, I was on a raft at the base of Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. Looking forward to running rapid number 5. Highly recommend that, by the way. I spent 3 months in Zimbabwe, mostly guiding sunburned tourists down the Zambezi River. If you are going to Africa, stay a while. I didn't work for the next 2 years and traveled to Denmark, Greece, Turkey, and the United Kingdom. I drove to Dead Horse, Alaska. I accomplished many of the travel goals I had been postponing. I also guided 15 trips down the Grand Canyon as the qualified boatman for private trips. Highly recommend that as well. I started a company in the 3rd year and bought some farmland as a hobby. I have not had a W-2 paycheck in 25 years. I own 450 acres of farmland now and grew the farm alongside operating the business. I guess it worked out okay. Story 21. It did not. I became quite wealthy until my early 40s. Then my industry literally disappeared, and now I am quite poor. I worked hard through my 20s and 30s, and right when it was time to start reaping, the carpet was pulled from under me. Now I am on my knees. Story 22. The dedication provided a strong foundation for career growth and personal fulfillment. Story 23. A series of unfortunate events meant that I never managed to escape the daily routine. Story 24. Worked great. Spent my 20s studying intensely. Got a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a doctor of philosophy degree. Then went to management consulting. Built a great foundation and now have lots of life flexibility and relative financial freedom. And the satisfaction that I earned what I have today. The power of education, coupled with super hard work, cannot be beat. Oh, and a supportive family and spouse. That makes a huge difference. I feel lucky I was able to put time into school. Others do not have that luxury. I should also add other good luck along the way. Though I believe we make some of our luck. Lots of shots on goal help with the right time, right place equation. Story 25. The thing with grinding is that even if it does not pay off as you expect, you still do better than those who are not grinding. I am in my late 40s and still working hard. I do not think I am in a great spot, but I must be because it is amazing how many people call me privileged or a boomer or other names when I am doing better than them. Story 26. Poorly. All I had to show for it was a level 80 Tauren druid. Story 27. I have a 6-figure job and work from home all the time. I never go to the office. It is not in the high hundreds by any means, but I am very happy with my financial situation. Story 28. COVID wiped it out. I guess I might be worse off if I did not work 2 jobs through my 20s, but I sacrificed having friends in my 20s for money. Then COVID happened, and now I have no friends and I am financially the same as a kid getting out of college. I cannot afford to live alone anymore without moving to Tornado Alley. It is one life lesson I learned hard. Work on your relationships because money can be gone in an instant. Story 29. I was a combat officer in the Army, fought, left, and parlayed that into a corporate job. I learned that skill and rose to my dream job within 10 years. The dream job was disappointing. I wasted much of my success on drugs and partying. Then I had a child, left the rat race, and moved closer to family. I make 6 figures effortlessly, and so does my wife, but that is honestly just barely middle class by the standards I grew up with. It was not easy, and I am not sure it was worth it. Our society is in serious trouble. We need change. To add, not because I think my lifestyle is not worth it, but many people work much harder than I do for far less, and that is what is truly wrong. I was dealt all the right cards, I played them badly, and I am still okay. That is not a sign of a healthy system. Story 30. Retired at 50, happily married, traveling the world together. Story 31. I worked hard until I was 25 or 26. Now I have no outstanding student loans, have bought a house, have a family, and am about to apply for citizenship in a Nordic country. Coming from a developing country, I have no regrets. I might have missed out on some of the 20s fun and might have been better off financially if I had continued that path back home, but I am very happy right now. I can afford any toy I want for myself and my daughter. Story 32. Live in a great city compared to living in my hometown of 3,000 people. Working my dream job. Only work 8 days a month with 24-hour shifts. Have amazing benefits. Set to retire at 56. No debt. No children. Hobby that brings me joy. Disposable income and happily in a 10-year relationship. Story 33. Addicted to stimulants and in rehabilitation. Successful in career but not worth it. Story 34. Just got a job at Google right before turning 30. So I am happy. It was a lot of work. The hardest part was not the work itself, but cutting through the noise from others who wanted to put me down as I pursued my goals. Story 35. Define pays off. I have a nice apartment and a car, yet very little debt. I am still working hard, just not as hard. I feel like I am living a rather normal life. Story 36. I tell my children there are 2 choices in life. Number 1, work now, play later. Number 2, play now, work later. I am the result of number 2, and it is difficult. Life was much easier when I was younger. I am guilty of making bad decisions based on not thinking ahead. Story 37. I am planning my move to another country so I don't have to work anymore. As soon as my kids graduate, I will leave. I have worked myself into health issues. I am very tired. I make a good amount of money. However, no matter what you make, you will spend it, especially if you have a family. Yes, I have first world problems. Could be much worse. I have worked 70 to 80 hours a week for years. I advanced in my career quickly, but it definitely took a toll on my personal life and relationships. Fortunately, I am still in my 30s, and I have realized what really matters. That is why my wife and I are leaving a place where I might struggle to afford healthcare after working for 45 years. Story 38. Mortgage-free, children are student loan-free and living independently. I will retire with a full pension in my late 50s to enjoy a life of travel. Story 39. Burned out and quit. Now I just spend my time playing poker and video games, still trying to find out how to reconnect and lead a life I want to be living. I am sure other people go through similar things, but I guess the difference is I do not have to worry about money while I am doing it. Story 40. 2 deployments, bad knees, alcohol use disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder. The 30s are much better than my 20s. Story 41. It worked awesome. 2 children and my wife, making 15 times the average salary for my country, stress-free job. I think it is going quite well. Story 42. I was in graduate school for almost all of it. I had to put life on hold for a bit, but I have a well-paying job I love and a wonderful family. I do wish I had gone on more adventures and been a bit more spontaneous, but I am doing a lot of that now since I am still young enough to do just about anything I could have done then. Story 43, really good. In my 20s, I worked 80 to 100-hour weeks. Took jobs I was way underqualified for. Spent free time studying to catch up quickly. Fast forward to now, I am 36 with 2 kids, able to let my wife be a stay-at-home mom and make over $400,000 a year. The grind now is to change my active income into passive income. I started going heavy into real estate and own a number of rental properties across the United States. I am tired of climbing the corporate ladder. One thing to note is how you grind in your 20s is important. Put in your 9 to 5, but your additional 40 hours should be for your self-development or progress. If you are doing an 80-hour grind just for a W-2 job, you are doing it wrong. Story 44. Missed out on social life and relationships. Ended up with a higher than average office worker salary, but then suffered a severe family tragedy that took a toll on me. Today, I am alone. I have some hobbies, a few drinking friends who are really good people, and I ride my motorcycle a lot. Monetarily, I am okay. But I sometimes feel a sense of failure as a person when I see children happily playing with their parents. Story 45. I am in my early 60s, retired, and make more money in retirement than I did while working. What you do in your 20s determines where you will be in your 30s. What you do in your 30s determines where you will be in your 40s, and so on. The harder you work early, the sooner you can retire. Do not give up, think long-term, and take care of your health. Story 46. Long hours and sacrifices are worth it. Financial stability, career growth, and independence show that hard work pays off. Story 47. I spent my 20s working hard and saving more money than most of my peers did. I also spent more than I should have, just to be fair. I avoided having children in my 20s and early 30s. This strategy paid off by giving me a reliable career when I entered my 30s and decided to start a family. I had zero debt except for a single credit card, which I used for most purchases and paid off every month. This financial discipline allowed me to have flexibility in preparing for family life and having a baby. Ultimately, it helped me own 2 houses, pay off cars, and carry very little debt by the time my first son was born. This, in turn, enabled savings for things directly benefiting him, such as college, emergencies, and a car. These goals, which seem difficult to achieve in your 20s, become habits due to the early choices I made. A drawback is that many of my peers and family members who had children earlier are now entering their empty nest years. They are traveling more and enjoying more free time, while I still have children and less free time to join them on spontaneous vacations. Most of them are still working in their 40s and not close to retirement, so they are not completely free from financial responsibilities. The benefit for me is that when I reach the empty nest stage, I will have much better financial coverage for myself and my children. At retirement age, my money will be working for me, allowing my partner and me to enjoy leisure without financial worries. Story 48. My mind and body suffer. The crash of 2008 was right before I graduated high school in 2009. I got by and worked hard. Then the pandemic hit and obliterated everything I worked for. I have decided that living month to month is better for my mental health. Until I recover enough to find motivation, before the next world event completely out of my control occurs, I am happier not stressing about it. I am grateful to have a roof over my head, a healthy, beautiful 8-month-old daughter, and a wife. No retirement, no savings anymore, but I am not drowning yet. Story 49. There was a bit of envy in my 20s seeing people get married, start their families, travel, go out all the time, and buy homes. My 30s became the best decade. I had adult money to do adult things with no financial guilt. After I got married and had kids, I did not have to deal with many of the financial stressors people face with a new family. Bigger house, bigger car, daycare? Okay, no problem. What I am most grateful for is that my kids have and will experience things I never did and, in turn, will avoid some of the bad things I grew up with. Story 50. I worked hard during my 20s. I am 31 now, married, a homeowner, valued at $700,000, 100,000 over asking. A dog owner, and I have a 2020 Honda Civic and a 2017 Toyota RAV4 fully paid off. Our household income is six figures. What really suffered was my mental health. Before, I thought mental health was just about having strong mental fortitude. These days, I see it more like a cup. As you pour water, which represents stress, into the cup, it fills and eventually overflows. I have been in therapy for the last few years. Despite all that I have achieved, I am still not happy. Currently, I am working on healing from trauma related to my Asian upbringing and learning why I behave the way I do. Story 51. I went no contact with everyone I shared familial bonds with. My dog was put down forcibly in an attempt to extort money from me. I have crippling depression and post-traumatic stress disorder from emotional abuse by a neurotic, always drug boss and independently from my father. My back is in constant pain. My friends all abandoned me for not being fun to be around, just work, work, work. I had no money in the end and, for a good part of that time, no guaranteed roof over my head. Somehow, it was all my fault because I was a disappointing, lazy person. The harder I worked, the deeper in debt I became. That continued past age 30, up to 36 when I started anew. Suddenly, life has meaning. I lost almost half of my life chasing a future that was denied to my generation. I regret all of the choices I made during that time, except for the thought, chill out, you'll figure it out anyway. You're smarter than you think. Story 52. Waste of time and ambition. My qualifications only mattered when I was 35. Story 53. 26. Still grinding. Inflation, home prices, and everything else have increased to the point where I cannot purchase a house in California. Yes, I sacrificed a lot of fun things. I still enjoyed nice restaurants, small outings, and nice clothes. It is still worth it to me because when money is tight, I can put down a modest down payment. I am not worried about big expenses or emergencies. The peace of mind it gives knowing I could go a couple of years without working is amazing. I can quit a job if I do not like it because I have financial reserves. I am planning on moving to a different state to buy something almost with cash to live debt-free. I will grind 5 more years to build up a nest egg again, then only need to work 3 to 4 days a week and be semi-retired. Story 54. No more school debt, comfortably on track to pay off the mortgage. I punch a clock, but it is a union job and I have excellent benefits, fair pay, and Department of Veterans Affairs disability from my time in service. I also have enough financial cushion to work for an organization that is mission-driven, not profit-driven, and the mission aligns with my own morals. I have done so much I did not like that now I finally know what I do. I have actual life goals and am taking actionable steps toward them. I like my track. Story 55. I worked hard through my 20s, trying to start various online projects while traveling. I am now 30 and have just invested my life savings into building a hotel and bar in Bali. I would say things are going all right, but we have not opened yet. Story 56. It wasn't easy and I wouldn't wish it on anyone other than a spoiled kid who needs a hard lesson. I didn't finish college or get any family help. As of now, I'm 38, married with 2 kids, a homeowner in a major city, and about to close on a $475,000 house bought on a single income. Grinding is not the answer on its own. It starts with goals, then strategy for meeting those goals, then working hard on the path of that strategy until you meet those goals. Story 57. Stable and well-paying job, college paid off with no debt, healthy 10-year-long relationship, house bought during COVID with a great rate, cars paid in cash, enough time and money to travel, found an antidepressant that works for me, and first baby on the way at 27. I am proud and thankful for what I have accomplished so far. Story 58. I am fully disabled and burned out, but I have a loving family and a roof over my head. Story 59. No financial success so far, but personal success beyond my wildest dreams. Can be better and I am working on that, but it is good. Story 60. I am about to buy my first house at age 30. I have no current debt and own a newer vehicle. Story 61. I worked very hard in my 20s. I retired at 31 years old. Now I just travel the world. No, I do not have wealthy parents. They are poor. We were poor immigrants, and I spent my childhood in poverty, with slightly better conditions in my teens. Story 62. Got out of student loan debt and bought a house by myself at 32. It was not fun. Story 63. Worked pretty well. I have all the money I need and enough free time to use that money to try to fix all the mental and physical damage from working hard in my 20s. Story 64. Paid off as you would expect. Making good money, debt-free, and able to afford unnecessary items at this point. However, other areas suffered due to the grindset mindset, such as relationships and maintaining friendships. Story 65. File crowd uppity gold cause slim apparatus offer provide innocent. Story 66. Not at all, it has cost me 2 wonderful and 1 bad relationship due to how often I had to travel. Nerve damage ended my career. Soon after, my sailing yacht was stolen, and I was back at zero, even below. I can barely prepare my own food, live alone, and have been depressed for the past 12 years. Besides the good memories, I lost everything I built up in that period. Story 67. It worked out. It took a few more years into my 30s to keep grinding and see results. Results take more time than the investment, it seems. But I am happy with where I am and glad I got the education I did while I still had the aptitude for school. Now I feel like I would never go back to school. Work is so much easier. It is nice to not have to work multiple jobs or balance work and school. It is the first time in my life that I can say that. I did meet more people and make more friends when I was very busy, but I like reducing my safe spaces to people I consider family. That has been a growing pain recently, but not a bad one to have. Story 68. Worked out pretty great. Had lots of fun but also worked very hard. Graduated college in 2009, which was not ideal. Started a temporary job at $27,000 per year with no benefits in a high cost of living city. Got into a top Master of Business Administration program, then consulting, and now in a comfortable role at a major technology company. Got married along the way and am expecting my first child. I get to take trips throughout the year and can afford nice material things without worrying. Figuring out the next stage of my career is a bit of a challenge since I feel somewhat limited. But these are first world problems. Story 69. Retired in my early 30s. I live relatively frugally day to day but go on luxury vacations once or twice a year. Story 70. Pretty well considering. It seemed like I wasted my 20s doing so when my first marriage failed, blind to red flags. But I moved back to my home state, reunited with my high school sweetheart, climbed the career ladder and have children too. I see it more as gaining a proper work ethic that can go with me anywhere. Story 71. In my 50s, people look up to me due to the rich and famous stuff. But I started the hustle at age 16 and have been hustling ever since. Is it worth it? Yes, 100%. But not for money or fame, only to improve others' lives along with yours. Do it to make the world better in some small way. The money is just a reward. It is a technology cliche to say make the world better. But positivity pays off and mission is motivation. Story 72. Paid off approximately $150,000 in debt. $25,000 credit card. $115,000 student loans. $10,000 car note. Worked 3 jobs for a few years. 9 to 5 freelance web design and referee soccer. Debt-free besides my new house loan. Got married a year ago. Partied like crazy in my 20s, hence the credit card debt. All worth it. The only time you can work 3 jobs and still go out is in your 20s. Now in my 30s, if I don't get a good night's sleep, I feel it. Story 73. Advice for any business you want to succeed in. Persist and do not stop despite failure until you reach your goal one day. Story 74. Worked hard from age 22 to 27. It certainly paid off as my compensation increased significantly after that, tripling over the next 8 years to more than $200,000 while working 40 hours a week. Now I am aiming to achieve financial independence and retire early in another 10 years. Story 75. In my mid-30s now, I no longer need to check my bank account before going grocery shopping. Story 76. Got lucky and ended up in a job and a profession that I liked and was good at. I worked 12-hour days and spent time on weekends just to learn everything I could to escape Russia, and I did it shortly after the war started. So I guess it was worth it. Now I can't get rid of intrusive now what thoughts. Life goes on. Story 77. It did not. Now at 34 years old, the only result I have is depression and burnout. Work and money are not important. Focus on things that really matter in life. Right now, I am catching up on the things I neglected. Story 78. I put in work in my 20s to make myself valuable to my school. I am a teacher. I took on important roles, created structures for programs addressing failing grades, absorbed testing coordination and a second core subject, and became lead writer for school accountability report card reports, local control and accountability plan cycles, Western Association of Schools and Colleges cycles, and other highly important documents. I am in my 30s now, and I am burnt out. I make it through my days dragging myself by the stumps of what used to be fingers. Since I did all that work to make myself invaluable, I am now paid at a level that nowhere else within 100 miles of me can match. Switching jobs now would result in a $30,000 to $40,000 a year pay cut, which is not an option. It is a double-edged sword. My grind paid off financially but is now affecting me mentally. Story 79. I make six figures, and life literally gets better every day. Hard work did pay off. For context, I was very poor and miserable during my childhood and teenage years. I think I deserve at least 10 years of true happiness before I die. Let us see what the scientists think. Story 80. Very well, and it continued into my 30s. Now at 53, I am pretty much financially set for the rest of my life. I could retire in 2 years, but I may keep working until I am 62 because I kind of like my job. It is work from home, pays well, and I really only work about 4 days a week. Story 81. Well, I am still in my 20s. I am 28, but so far, I have 3 paid-off cars in my name. I am going to get a house here soon, maybe by next year. Story 82. It went great until acquiring medical debt to save a loved one. It's not an insane amount of debt, but it is a burden as it makes you feel broke while you slowly work to pay it off. Animals needing a veterinary visit around the same time, which was also expensive, did not help. Fortunately, I worked hard to have a house and a decent job, so I was able to manage it all. It will be a challenge to recover, but I can do it. Story 83. Well, Depression-era grandparents implanted the frugal gene hard. I worked 3 jobs to pay off student loans. I approached it intensely. It became a muscle I would regularly use in life. I had a medical setback, no worries. I knew how to live within my means to adjust to debt. So much so that I took a retirement plan loan to get the certifications I needed to advance my career and completed that. This was the turning point that set me on the right path. I have made some risky investments but have offset that risk by always saving up cash for the investment and limiting the use of debt or loans. Story 84. I retired at 52. Work hard, have fun, and prioritize. Story 85. Burnout by mid-40s. I took the safe route job-wise, and now I am looking at the next 10 years before retirement and want to run away as far and as fast as I can. Story 86. I am just months away from retiring at 42. My hard work included taking advantage of luck whenever possible, and I was fortunate many times. Story 87. I was able to leave the job I held for a decade and get a 40% raise at my new job. I was only able to get this position because of the knowledge and experience I earned at my previous job. Story 88. Only just out of my 20s, 31, but it feels like it's paying off enough so far. Finished school at 18, got an apprenticeship for 3 years earning basically minimum wage, £15,000 first year, £17,500 second, and £20,000 third year. But they put me through a lot of training for free, stayed another year on about £35,000, then took a job doing related but different work. Started at £40,000 at around 23. Worked very hard at that job. Did every bit of overtime, on-call, and extra hours paid or unpaid. Got noticed, gained experience, and was recognized for it. I'm now at the top of that team, earning £70,000 basic salary, £85,000 to £90,000 after overtime and bonus. Managed to buy a decent house, have a comfortable life, and a very healthy pension. No debt other than my mortgage, with reasonable savings that I'm trying to build on top of nursery fees and homeownership costs. Got 2 young children now, and because I've put the work in already and will continue when it matters, I get a lot of flexibility in return, allowing me more time with them. Not a millionaire by a long way, but doing better than many people I was always told by teachers I would never keep up with. Getting there hasn't cost me friends, relationships, or mental or physical health, which feels like more of a win than anything else. Story 89. Probably late to the post, but I will share anyway. It might be therapeutic. Professionally, it has worked out great and set me up for a strong career track for my late 20s and beyond if I keep going. In my personal and social life, I have some close friends who have stuck by me despite sometimes not seeing me for months on end. My romantic relationships did not enjoy the same success, however. As it turns out, working for 16 hours and then reading a book or watching educational content is not most people's idea of spending quality time together. My depression has left me in a place where work is the only thing I find any meaning in. I do not date anymore. I do not find joy in my old or current hobbies, and I usually refuse most invitations to hang out. I do not think grinding is what caused my depression, but it certainly did not help either. Story 90. I own the following after working overtime throughout my 20s. A house with a mortgage, several cars owned outright, a decent retirement account for my age in my early 30s, 1 bad back, 1 bad neck, 2 bad feet, 1 iffy knee, and 1 low-quality wrist and thumb. If I do not break down before my 50s, I should be able to retire no later than 60. However, I am not placing any bets. I am doing a lot of physical therapy, starting to exercise regularly again, and focusing on my health in the hopes of extending my ability to work until retirement. Story 91. I was lucky enough to have parents who paid for my college. After that, I worked hard. Net worth approximately $12 to $15 million in my mid-40s. Story 92. The first startup I founded failed. The next one I joined succeeded. My career is exactly where I want it to be, and my hours have settled to a healthier 40 hours a week now that I am in upper management at age 29. My first few relationships failed because I was a workaholic, but I have finally found the one. I am married with children and feel incredibly lucky to provide a great quality of life for them. I sometimes think of all the parties I skipped or festivals I could have attended, but I am healthy, loved, secure, and excited about the opportunities in my future. This makes me feel no regret. One piece of advice is to focus as much on health and fitness as on work. If your energy is low, you can easily overwork yourself with half the output of a high-energy person who does not burn out and can keep going. Story 93. I worked very hard through my 20s, and the result? I got to snowboard 2 to 3 million vertical feet every winter, and downhill mountain bike and golf all summer. I lived in paradise but had to move away because houses in Summit County, Colorado, were over $1 million and not priced for locals. The housing market collapsed because everything was bought up for short-term rentals and Airbnb. So I moved back to the East Coast. Now I have a house that will be paid off in 2050. I have a 2019 Toyota 4Runner in immaculate condition. That's about it. I still can't afford student loans. I'm burned out at 33, always tired, depressed, and having suicidal thoughts. I miss Summit County so much. It's a shame I can't live where I want because I'm not rich, and hard work doesn't pay off. I need a year or 2 off, but that's unrealistic. I'm set up to work until I die. I have no savings because it took a decade to save enough for a down payment while being taken advantage of by landlords. I'm depressed because I was living my dream and had to let go of the idea of living and dying where I wanted to. Granted, I had a great time in my 20s, but the 30s are tough. I get hungover if I have 1 drink. I spend more time at work than anywhere else, but pay hasn't kept up with the cost of living, so every year it feels like I make less money. Story 94. I was inexperienced in my 20s, traveling and socializing. I worked hard in my 30s. It was worth it. Working hard without direction is like running on a hamster wheel. Story 95. I had my first child at 17, so I had no choice but to work hard. I was a single parent. I graduated with my bachelor's degree at 25, had my second child at 30, started an amazing career at 32, and bought my first home at 37. I now make good money, my children are happy and healthy, and my life is good. We are very fortunate considering the circumstances I started with. Failure is not an option was my motto because I simply could not fail, and it paid off. Story 96. On paper, great. Got the Master of Business Administration, the prestigious job, house, and car. I am happily married with a young son. In reality, it is a lot more complicated. What no one talks about is once you fall into the treadmill of grinding, it becomes very hard to get off. Every raise you get just increases the speed of the treadmill and increases the anxiety that it could all go away if you make a mistake. Story 97. It worked out great for me. I make a solid upper middle class income, own a home, and I can retire at 50 if I want to. It's not just about working hard. It's about making great decisions about when to work hard. Many people have tried to convince me to work hard on their behalf. Look for people who want to work hard with you where the outcome is mutually beneficial from the start. If someone offers you promises later for work now, be very skeptical. Propose opportunities for shared benefits. If they manipulate, be okay walking away. Story 98. Go to night school. Get a degree that is useful and that you are genuinely interested in. Live well in your 30s and 40s doing things that your earlier hard work earned. Story 99. I worked hard through engineering school and started my career. Now I am 37 years old and earn a good income. It is good. Story 100. I was able to build a good career as a self-employed person and become comfortable financially. However, I neglected forming meaningful relationships, which has made certain things difficult in my 30s. I am grateful to be where I am in my career, but I believe people are more important than things or status, and I regret not finding a better balance. Story 101. Well, I ended up marrying her, so I guess it paid off. Story 102. Still broke, still don't take vacations. But that's preschool teaching, baby. Story 103. Worked hard from ages 19 to 32 in the oil field. Lost $180,000 in the stock market in 2008, plus a house valued at $74,000. In 2019, a house fire caused a total loss, and I was underinsured, losing about $400,000. In 2020, COVID-19 caused me to close my business, incurring accumulated business debt totaling $200,000 for which I was personally liable. From 2021 to 2023, I was involved in a custody battle in the Michigan Supreme Court related to an abuse and neglect case that I eventually won, gaining full custody of my son, with legal costs of $248,000. At 37 years old, I am starting over nearly from scratch after losing over $1 million in liquid cash and assets. It's been a wild ride, but in my first month after restarting my business, I generated $74,000 in revenue at a 70% margin. Back to grinding hard, though I'm not as spry as I used to be. Much smarter, though. Keep going, no matter what. Story 104. I own my home, my car, and have a good job, so I am happy with where I am. I may not be a millionaire, but I am glad I do not pay rent or a car note. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.